Yes, 5G was always the headline of so many magazines. So we'll talk about it. Where are we going with it? Let's discuss it now at the eve of the 2024 Olympic Games, where we hope we'll all have 5G. So what's happening with 5G? And why is Paris-Saclay once again at the very helm of affairs over here? Because it's been a year now that the fifth generation of telephony, mobile telephony, was born. So now, to tell you briefly, we've got some major players over here. Jean-Luc Bellard, who's in charge of Biotech, and that covers about 900 members, including the future of telecoms. Good afternoon, then, Mr. Mano, Olivier Mano, in charge of collaborative projects here within Paris-Saclay. Good afternoon. Stéphane Panetra, who's the CEO of ArtFi, a startup which is on electromagnetic waves for connected things, and also in duplex. During this discussion that we will have, we've got Tony Zhou. Hello, you're chairperson of DVD, which is a French training and R&D institution about sustainable development and technology. You're far and close to us, so take the floor when you wish to. You just point a finger at me, raise your hand, and I will turn to you. So let's start with this. How is 5G an opening to infinite possibilities? Let's just discuss the basic ideas together, Jean-Luc Bellard. What are the three major features if you look at the basics of 5G? What is 5G? Now, 5G, to understand 5G, you must stop with everything that you knew and that politicians say. 5G fundamentally is a fundamental layer of the digital infrastructure for tomorrow, and which will be used in all new industries, new services, and our lives, our daily lives. Just like internet about 20 years ago, which changed access to knowledge and which completely changed business and marketing, and the new services plus the structuring of media and so on, a lot changed. So we'll be entering this new era, and we call it 5G. It's a wrong name. It's not a new generation. It's just a transformation. It's a revolution. The first one is an increase in bandwidth, a huge increase because we got new frequencies, new antennae. And the second one is about connectivity, not just between people, but also things and detectors. And that in itself is a very important point, particularly for optimizing services in industry, in the city, and so on. And the last final characteristic is this low latency. In other words, the absence of return time, the lapse time, which is not perceptible to man. It's not like in satellite links where you had to wait for the echo and so on 10 or 15 years ago. Everything is direct and very quick. So all three together are associated with a continuous transformation that's been going on, which is a merger between the IT world and the communication network world. So all this is now coming together and intermingling. We have communication networks which are in IT, plus there'll be new services. There'll be more layers in the cloud which will be using a 5G network infrastructure. So in the next 10 or 15 years, all industry, all services, all business models, all societal changes in terms of mobility, services provided, urban services, utilities, etc., schooling and so on will be changed by this infrastructure. Well, you're already 15 years ahead of me, and I'm still learning about 5G. Well, stop learning, you unlearn, and then go a little further. What exactly is this likely to change? This new approach that you have for services. I get the impression that it's just like a Miyazaki universe. You open a door and you change the world. I'd love to go there, but I want to understand how I'll think differently. Well, our society has already been through a lot of disruption, and among some of these disruptive technologies, to put it simply, it's resource management. It could be anything. You could talk about raw material, time, carbon-based energy. So all these systems that use resources are intelligent, which are reactive. They analyze, you measure. and you react. So a system that must contain all these elements must also have major connectivity, AI tools also, and that's what we have in 5G. For example, if you take mobility on the roads, if you want less traffic jams and fewer accidents, and less carbon emission, then you need to regulate with an external tool all this traffic. So, of course, it'll be vehicles that will interact with an infrastructure, and there'll be systems that will be analyzing facts, not where the car will be, but before and after. And so it'll be a smarter system, more perceptive or intuitive. That's for mobility, energy, health, and all sectors. So, in fact, it's a fundamental stone in our digital infrastructure, which will change everything. And you will no longer be looking at things as we did with Internet. How do we move around in this world? You must ask the right questions. You must challenge technology because, but essentially, we are moving into a system that is mobilizing resources, and you just have to measure and react. Optimize resources, maximize resources, no matter what they are. And we can see that technology is progressing on your side. So what is the consumer supposed to do, and how is he supposed to mature at the same time, given what you're describing? No, good point. Good point, because it raises a question on who is 5G really meant for. We had used it, we had presented it as being for the consumer. Essentially, it's just a development of a network for industry and services. In the past, mobile networks were optimized for consumers, end users like you and I, for communication, for leisure, and for other services, for entertainment. But 5G is really meant for tomorrow's services and manufacturers. So gradually, the knock-on effect will be for people like you and I, for Lehman. But it'll change completely the structure of services, and therefore IT, which deals with all this and all sorts of other activities, for instance, the processing of computing and of cybersecurity and its impact, and software and so on. All these businesses are connected, all these activities are connected via 5G. And so there's an approach to security which is different once you have 5G. So it's all these changes. All the industry will be changed by changes in digital infrastructure.
So consumers will send in cascade the use. Today, when we have services, we may have difficulties to have access to healthcare. When we, in the future, we will have a remote care providing, and that will be feasible, and that will be part of normal use. This is a good remark, because very often we've seen that technologies do not really think about the use that could be made about the invention. And once the use arrives, it can transform the technology. So there's a kind of virtuous loop here, where you've started talking about some applications, and we're going to talk about events and show business and so on. And I'm turning to Tony Jo, who is on video conference. You're the CEO of Vidicom, experimenting new mobilities. And you said the only limits of 5G are creativity and the imagination. So no limits, and the fields of possibles are very large, and they're endless. So how can Paris-Saclay enable you to move forwards, and what are you doing on a concrete basis? Paris-Saclay is a wonderful field to test mobilities. We are lucky enough to have some higher education universities and very nice brains, but we also have the possibility to have road structures covering a fast lane, urban, semi-urban roads, enabling us to run tests that will be representative of all the territory. And here in Saclay, we have experiments that have already been conducted, and they can be complemented, not only starting from scratch, but from what we've already done, and it's going to make things faster to understand those experimentations and to react to what we were saying about technology and its use. What are your goals in your tests? As you were saying, I'm really focused on mobility, everything that is related to cars or transportation. So 5G has many benefits in terms of mobility. We talked about broadband, but that's not the only thing. You have the time between when an information is issued and the one it is received. Just to give you an example, you have traffic light changing color. It's important that information arrives in time and not too late. Or if you want to mention to someone crossing a zebra that there is a danger because there is a lorry coming up, the person has to be informed in real time. And this is where 5G is very interesting. You have also the quality of service. Making sure that the message has been transmitted. And this is very important in terms of security. The higher the quality of the service, the better the quality of the information. So you're talking about security in cars, but also reliability. But this is all based on things being being sped up. So mobility, is that a field where you are moving on? Are you talking about cars being faster? I'm asking a question. I'm not always, I don't always know what I'm looking for, but I'm sure you've thought about it before. Today we have cars that are about to be equipped for the 3 to 4 years to come. So in 3 to 4 years, all those vehicles should be equipped with 5G in order to offer the services expected by the consumers. So this is now that everything is being decided in the coming months, that everything is being decided. And this is because of the manufacturing and equipment cycle for cars. But to equip vehicles with this technology has a cost that has to be justified by services delivered to the customers. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So today, we need to know what the 5G technology can provide as new services. And here we have experimentation programs that are interesting, and we have 2 colleagues around the table who know that very well. We have a new experimentation program that we are rolling out partly in Saclay to test in a real site, real cases of implementation of 5G to the benefits of the car drivers. So what is this platform?
Merci beaucoup.
5G Open Road, voilà. Donc, l'idée est de voir comment, à l'aide d'un réseau 5G et d'une infrastructure
how to move from a 5G network and a road infrastructure with sensors and microcomputers on the side of the road, and how can those systems provide new services to the users in mobility, car drivers, it might be for logistics, for new mobility hubs. All those services can be improved with those new services. Today, with an autonomous vehicle, we are talking about a level 4 type of equipment. And it requires several thousands of euros. So that means these cars are not always affordable by everyone. So thanks to the infrastructure, we'll be able to test the equivalent of services on a much cheaper vehicle than what would be necessary to spend for the consumer. So it provides a service to a much larger number of consumers. I understand that. Thank you for this Open Road 5G program. I had heard about it, and this is really exciting. So you have this notion of making use more democratic. We have more safety as well. And I am turning to Thierry Evano. The Nokia site in Paris-Saclay has more than 1,500 engineers working in R&D on 5G. We have 4,000 people working here, but 1,500 working on 5G. So what is the objective? This is a large size one. We were talking about the 2024 Olympic Games. Is that a way for you to get prepared for this event? Indeed, at the beginning, Nokia is preparing and developing technology, but we have to understand what will be their use. And for the last 3-4 years, the question we've been asking is, what are you dreaming of? Not talking about technology, and then our engineers will tell us, okay, careful, to whom are you asking the question? Our customers, partners, and this is also some, customers, all customers are asking the question to their customers. So different limits are going to be exceeded, and we have the 2024 Olympic Games looming closer. We will have 4 Olympic sites in our area, so we wanted to know what would be the benefits of 5G in order to start working, in order to be ready for 2024 and for those new uses that will enable us to leverage this technology in an endless field of possibilities. What would be the types of applications possible? Well, for this, we have an Olympic site, which is a bicycle racing site. And we have millimetric waves there. So we've made a request for experimental frequencies, and this is going to be tested in the field of sports and TV. So what are you going to do? We are going to see what would be the needs for viewers, for sports people with the French Federation of Cycling, and for TV broadcasting the events, with France Television. And we want to have an enriched show, the TV viewer, discovering maybe a sport he didn't know about, so he would get a better understanding of the rules in the field of TV. And this is something that we've experienced 2 years ago in Roland Garros with France Television. Well, we are deploying a lot of cables, and this wireless technology would make the implementation of all the broadcasting equipments easier, and this is what we've done with France Télévisions in December, and with the sport awards, we are already working on a project of sensors to better understand the performances of the sports person, to have because each federation is coming with their own equipment, so we want to make the implementation easier. And we were talking about broadband, we were talking about real time. Well, we want to make the transmission of information faster and easier between the sports and his coach or people, sports people and viewers. I think there's a small video here, so let's have a look at it. Stéphane va mettre throughout what has been explained, when listening to Tony Shaw or Thierry Ébano, we can see that this democratization and opening of endless possibilities thanks to 5G in cars or for sports, or, we can see that there is a change in use, so things are going to change drastically for all of us. But we also have the health area that is impacted. You are the CEO of ART5, which has specialized in radio frequency, developing disruptive technology, proposing measurement equipments, measurement of outflow of or output of electronic devices. So how do you want to test that? We can see that in this development, the society is asking itself questions about whether they are exposed to waves according to specific limits. And this was not really present in the late discussions because mobile phones were not always used, but now it has become an indispensable tool. Same thing for connected devices. So there's been a change, and because public at large is not stupid, and they have understood that 5G is going to be a transformation, so that's why they're asking themselves questions. But there is a lot of mistrust, but that can be addressed in a very easy way by measuring. Well, we can measure and then react and then take our own responsibility and inform people. So that's why we thought that if we were anticipating the arrival of 5G, we couldn't stay with the same way of operation as the one we had up to now. We have to measure things in a more complete way. So we are measuring the specificities of the waves. A wave is made up of a set of characteristics. It's scope, level, the phase that is highly technical corresponding to the way it is propagated, its dependency to time. When we are measuring all those specificities, we can characterize all of the wave in any area and treat the signal that is going to be derived from it in a connected car or in your human body. That is a very heterogeneous body, and currently there are only 2 companies that can do that. Initially there was one company in Switzerland, and now we have ART5, which is a disruptive company. So we can be proud to have developed this technology. Well, apparently only one mobile out of 1 million is being tested. So the idea is to have more mobile phones being tested tested, you were talking about measuring and informing. And now that we have those indicators enabling you to measure, what is important is to know how to inform the largest panel of person or people possible. Well, initially, industrial people didn't really want to communicate on that because people were afraid, especially related to this exposure to wave, and there were some concerns from the public at large. So those two environments wouldn't talk together. And how can we solve that? Well, by coming up with tools that can give you measures, and those measures could be communicated. And this, the fact that one mobile phone out of 1 million is tested is a piece of information that can be communicated. And we couldn't do more because we didn't have the means to do more. But, now we should be able to say this mobile phone has been tested and so on. And that will enable to adapt the setting up of antenna. Because up to now, we had a way to calculate the number of waves, but what we want to do is calculate the other specificities in order to give the industrials all the specificities enabling them to better set up their antenna. Well, you're talking about democratization of all the uses and a threshold, so you have to test mobile phone per mobile phone, but do you have a more global test of the impact it can have? There is a standard that is focusing on the quantity of energy absorbed by the human body, and you have other standards focusing on the more global impact with sensors that have been set up in Paris and Marseille, and this has been developed by another French company, and that provides a more global measurement. And if we combine local and global measurements, we'll get complete piece of information. That's the balance we should always aim to. Just maybe a few words to conclude this roundtable that could continue for much longer. What's your feeling? Do you think we are reaching a kind of maturity? Yeah, very interesting things have been said. It's very important to have testing areas, as mentioned by Thierry, and people working in specific areas such as VDECOM should mobilize themselves to explain the meaning for their industry. And, we were talking about cars, and we want to have more people within a car, which is going in the right direction in terms of pollution. And it's also important to measure. I agree with this analysis. I don't agree with everything, because we can't send all cars to a crash test to know whether they are secure or not. But it's important to measure, to be able to share information. And another thing that is important to understand is that we are undergoing a drastic transformation of our IT infrastructure. We can have a duplication of the physical world within the digital world. We are talking about the digital twin, though we didn't have time to talk about it, but our researchers are already working on 6G, where you have interaction between digital, physical, and biological worlds. And this is highly disruptive in the technological world. So researchers are already working on 6G, but what about us? Well, 5G is a standard, and for the moment there is no 6G standard, no specific planning, but research work always takes a lot of time, 10 years at least, so people are thinking about frequency, terahertz, and so on. So these are avenues for research, so it doesn't define the standards, but the areas for research. And among what has not been done in in the past, maybe we should think, we should see how we can include society or societal approaches, interactions with the public, climate stakes. That should be also included within the 6th agenda. That wasn't the case in the 5th agenda. So the world keeps learning.
So the world what we're dreaming of and the reality that we'd like to have. So these are the questions that you're working on. Thank you all very much, all four of you, for having shed so much light so simply on a subject which is so full of wealth and ideas to make the discussion interesting on 5G. So Marjorie, we are going to have another talk. We'll come back to digital twins in a while at a next round table, but before that we'll have our Spring 50 with food tech. There are 50 very innovative startups here in this field. They're all present and they'll be speaking to us. They'll pitch and you will, of course, vote for them. And we will have the award-giving ceremony this evening. So just now, food tech.